uMngeni Municipality in KwaZulu-Natal will need about 272 million rand to fix damage to infrastructure caused by the recent storms. The funds are needed for roads, stormwater drains, pavements, electrical infrastructure and bridges that were destroyed by heavy rains. Well, uMngeni Mayor Christopher Pappas joins us now to unpack this situation. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Pappas. So just firstly, give me an idea of the extent of the damage that has been caused by these storms in your area of jurisdiction in uMngeni.
Good afternoon, Tula Sizwe. So since the 30th of December 2021, there was an incredibly massive, a freak storm that came out of nowhere. And not only did it have heavy rains, but it also had heavy winds. So we had incredible volume and velocity of water, but an also incredible amount of wind that affected us here. But since then, it's been an unusually high rainfall for this particular summer period. And we have not had an opportunity to recover and recuperate. Small things from being able to clean drains effectively, to be able to start up the mop-up process. It continuously rains every afternoon here, and not just a little bit, but a lot. And that's led to widespread infrastructure damage. And a municipality of our size we don't plan for a disaster that covers from wall to wall of the municipality. You identify smaller issues when there are disasters, but when it comes to these massive disasters, and you've heard 272 million rand, that is half our annual budget, and we're going to need assistance to try and recover from that.
So you estimate the damage to be about 272 million rand. Which particular infrastructure does that cover?
So just for clarity, so the 272, that's just damage directly to municipal infrastructure. There's other damage that's occurred to people's homes and in informal settlements as well. So poorly built RDP houses or RDP houses that were built in wetlands and places where they should have, or with material that they shouldn't have been built with. Those residents have also sustained damage, and obviously due to their economic circumstances, they haven't got the money to fix their own homes. So that is still being quantified because, like I said, it's an ongoing issue. It rains every day, and there's new people coming onto our lists. I think the hardest hit of those are people in informal settlements, but also those living in rural areas who are still living in mud houses, unfortunately. Rain and mud don't go well together, and you have people coming who are in desperate need of shelter. But the question that you ask, yes, so it's with regards to roads. Water and roads are not friends. So that's where we've seen the most amount of damage, but also poorly built infrastructure. So many of the rural or township areas, we see that the infrastructure that's been built there is of a really poor quality, which ends up washing away much quicker than what you find in the older infrastructure that we have in this municipality. So those where our biggest challenges are. Access to rural areas, so our gravel roads have washed away, and the supporting infrastructure over bridges have also been of big concern for us because people no longer have access via the one or two roads that do lead to those areas.
So, it sounds to me like a situation that I would easily describe as being a disaster. But knowing that in terms of the laws that govern cooperative governance, perhaps there's a technical definition of when a situation is declared a disaster. So without putting words in your mouth, what are you appealing for? It sounds to me that there's an appeal implicit in what you've just described now.
Absolutely. So we have appealed to the provincial government through the district disaster management to declare the area a disaster. The Premier has done so. So a number of municipalities in the Mngungundlovu district, and I suspect, having seen what's happening in our neighboring districts in uThugela, that they will also be declared disaster areas. But particularly for uMngeni, the Premier has declared this a local disaster area in terms of the requirements of the legislation. What this does is that it opens up possibilities for provincial and national government to then give us disaster relief, whether it's humanitarian or money for infrastructure repairs, and that's what we're waiting for at the moment. I did have a discussion with KZN yesterday about the declaration, thanking him for that and coming to our aid in that regard. But now we need a number figure to it. We need to know how much it is that we have to work with in order for us to start rebuilding.
And In terms of the municipal infrastructure, Mr. Pappas, in your campaign ahead of the elections in November, and that's something that's in the past now, water under the bridge, as it were, unfortunate choice of words on my part, but you were emphasizing the state of infrastructure in your municipality. And in a conversation a few minutes ago, focusing on Ladysmith, that also came to the fore. Issues such as drainage systems, because rains will come and sometimes they are unpredictably higher than previous seasons. And part of what perhaps, not that it will mitigate the situation altogether, but it stands you in good stead and gives you a fighting chance of sorts, is when your infrastructure is in a good state, including drainage systems. What are you able to say about how this particular situation has brought to the fore the importance of good infrastructure, but also importantly maintaining that infrastructure at a local government level?
You're correct, Ulysses. So, I mean, what we inherited, and I mean, I'm the man now, and my party's in government, so I have to accept that it is our responsibility. But what we've inherited is infrastructure that has either been poorly created, so it's been constructed out of poor materials or people who don't know what they're doing, or we've inherited infrastructure that has been under-maintained for so many years and is now past its lifespan. Just an example, many years ago they passed legislation that said we must replace all the stormwater pipes that are constructed out of corrugated iron. In a number of places in our municipality, we still have that. So you can imagine the scale of the disaster it's exponential when you still have to deal with legacy issues. So we had a huge backlog with infrastructure before we took government, and this is just going to make it a lot harder for us to not only repair and maintain what we had as a problem, but to actually start to fix the things that have been destroyed by the storm. So it's absolutely critical. We as municipalities, we spend a lot of money on the nice to haves, the things that look good during elections. You can say, here's my hall, or here's something that I've built. But if you actually don't invest in the stuff that you have already, you're going to have huge issues such as what we have now. So one of the decisions that we've taken is to stop investing in capital infrastructure for at least one financial year. And by that, I mean brand new roads in our municipality. Let us fix what we have across all communities before we can start rebuilding or we start thinking of new things, because we're just compounding our problems when we add to our asset registers and we're unable to maintain what we have.
Yeah. Just lastly, Mr. Pappas, something you said at the start of our conversation struck a chord with me. It sounds like there's a great, other than the infrastructure problems that we're talking about, disruptions and things that need to be rebuilt, it sounds to me that there's a particular and pronounced humanitarian situation in the informal settlements that you talk about, as well as areas where houses are built from mud structures. Would I be correct in saying that perhaps the appeal should be broader beyond what government is doing and yourselves, what you are doing? There's a broader appeal there that has to do with the humanitarian situation.
No, you're absolutely correct. And to start off with, I must say we're incredibly grateful for the private sector and the NGOs who have come on board to assist us. Gift of the Givers has been here. Our local NGOs have been here. SAPI Forestry has been of great assistance. And just generally the public who have given little bits here and there. But there's only so far that will go, and there's only so many people that will help. And what we really need is to broaden our appeal, noting that there's also a number of districts and our neighbors who are also really badly affected by these storms. But I think that there are mechanisms that provincial and national government can assist us with, and if that can be expedited, then at least we are decreasing the number of people who are in a dire situation, and we can then focus on those isolated cases through donations or as a local municipality.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time here on All Angles. That is Christopher Pappas. He is the mayor of uMngeni Municipality in KwaZulu-Natal. You heard for yourself there just how dire the situation is in that municipality. Just one of several municipalities affected by flooding in KwaZulu-Natal, as well as the Eastern Cape and the Free State in the last few weeks.